Welcome back to Gav Goes In. Big up the chat each and every time. Big up to Sham. Big up to Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team. Big up to Jude each and every time, guys. Big up yourselves. So yeah, obviously no morning show today. I had a couple of things to do, but of course, as always, give you guys some content. And yeah, we got one to get into, guys. There's been some news that's been dotted around. Today and yesterday as well. And for me, it's Man City again. And as I said with Man City, I've been saying Man City have got something up their sleeves, guys. They're going to do something noticeable in this window that is going to, I believe, take over the transfer window. Big up to Jay as well for coming on. Big up to Barbara Joseph each and every time as well. Big up to 40 Years Life. So as I said, guys, Man City, I did say they're gonna steal this window. Big up Wayne as well. And again, you look at the likes of Savinho, and again, I'm actually shocked that Savinho is the one that Pep is choosing to sacrifice. He's more of a newer signing. But I've got a bit of a difference for you guys as well. Big up to DXR. Big up, bro. But I've got a bit of a different one, guys, which I'm going to go into in a bit. But as I said, yeah, Tottenham looking at Savinho, and you know what? That'll be a great signing for Tottenham for me. Obviously they've been linked to Eze as well. They've been linked to Savinho now. And as I said yesterday, if they get both players, listen, I'd have to say, man, that Savinho, Kudus, and Eze, what a free that would be. So if they get that done, then yeah, listen, man, I think everyone will have to start taking Tottenham seriously this season. And the thing is, I do believe Tottenham will definitely at least get one of them. And this is where, obviously, as I said, City come into it. And you think of if Savinho does move on, Rodrygo, and I've been saying since the start of the summer, I think Rodrygo is the one that Man City will go for. I've always been saying that Rodrygo is, and I think if he was to come out and tell Real Madrid he wants to go, the one club I can see him going to was definitely City. For me, it was City or Chelsea. I know there was a few others that were saying, Bayern Munich. Obviously, that's not going to happen no more. But as I said, I think Rodrygo is going to be a great signing for Man City. And I'd have to say as well, that would probably be the sign of the summer if they was to get that done. I think he's that good of a player, and what an answer that would be to what Liverpool have done as well. Because I still think that the Isak thing's not really gone away. If Newcastle happen to keep Isak, that would be great business. But if Liverpool do sign him, then as I said, expect City to get at least one big name over the line. And again, I'm a massive fan of Savinho. I think Savinho is very good. I think he's unlucky that City have a lot of attacking talent in the likes of Oscar Bob now coming back from injury, who's a top player. And then you've got the likes of Foden. You've got Ryan Cherky now as a top player. All three players are left-footed. Well, including Savinho, all four players are left-footed and can also play on the right. And on the other side, you've got the likes of Jeremy Doku. And you've got Omar Marmoush, who can play out there as well. But guys, what I want to ask you guys, and again, let me know in the comments. Again, if you're a Tottenham fan as well, let me know. Do you think Savinho is the wrong player that's being sacrificed? And maybe a Phil Foden or a Jeremy Doku should be looked at? Let me know what you think, guys. I think the reason I'm mentioning Phil Foden, although for me, Foden isn't going anywhere because, again, he's come through the youth. And again, in terms of the English quota, obviously he helps towards that. So you would think that that's never going to happen. Obviously, as I said, coming through the youth as well. So he's got an affinity to the club. But do you think City should, they should at least let someone else go before Savinho? Maybe Jeremy Doku as well. As Sham said, yeah, Doku. I'd definitely say Doku as well. But maybe, as I said, Foden or Doku, I'm looking at two players there. I'm saying Foden from his season last, from what he done last season, which wasn't great. Obviously, you got Cherky, who's the new signing. Oscar Bob's come back from injury and he's rated highly. Marmoush is a newer signing. So you're looking at two players that have been there a bit longer, which is why I'm saying Foden and Jeremy Doku. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, because I definitely think that them getting rid of Savinho, I think they're going to regret that. And again, if he's going to Tottenham, there's no way Tottenham are going to accept a buyback clause. So you're looking at a permanent sell, and is that going to be a good deal for City? Because I think in the future, I think he's going to be a star, man. Savinho, what's he? He's only what, 21. I think Rodrigo might be 22, I think, or 23. I think Rodrigo's 23, might be. Or maybe 24, actually, Rodrigo. I think Rodrigo's 23 or 24. So, again, if you're going to get in a Rodrigo, for me, Rodrigo's one of the best players in the world. And he'll be an upgrade in any team, really. I think, he can go and play for any team in the world for me, Rodrigo. But, yeah, I think everything's pointing towards City getting Rodrigo. And I think definitely, if Savinho does go, they're definitely going to bring in someone, and he's the obvious one. I think they were linked to is it Magnus Akliahuch from Monaco? They were linked to him, but obviously I think that's been shut down. But yeah, Rodrigo, man, what a player! He's one of the best players in the world, and he's going to be a statement signing for sure for for Man City. And I just wonder, if Savinho was to go, and let's say Real Madrid turn around and say, Rodrigo's not going nowhere, or Rodrigo doesn't give his commitment to City, then that could leave City a bit short. So I think if they let Savinho go, they're going to have assurances that Rodrigo's definitely coming. So I think it'd be one to watch. It would definitely be one to watch. But yeah, I think in terms of signings this summer from the majority of the teams, it's been impressive, man. A lot of the top teams have done a lot of big business. Big up to Lumi Rain as well, each and every time. Yeah, I think a lot of the top teams have made signings, but I just think that there's still a few more signings to make. I'm gonna predict that City, Liverpool, Chelsea, um, who else is there? Man United, Newcastle, Tottenham. I'm gonna say all the top teams in the league. Top 8 teams. Aston Villa, I'd say as well. I reckon all of them make at least another two signings, in my opinion. I think they'll make another two signings out of all them teams. You know, I'll be very surprised, as I say, if at least City definitely make at least one. Same with Liverpool. I think Chelsea make another two, which is included obviously Xavi Simons as well. Newcastle make two for me. Villa, I think they might get another player, I believe. United again, I think United make another two signings. I think obviously, as we know, Carlos Baleba, but I think they could make another one to add on to that as well. Yeah, listen, I think a lot of them teams, man, have made some crucial signings, and I don't think it stops there. But as I said, I think them letting go of Savinho, Man City, I think they're going to regret that because he's a top player, and I just wonder, as I said, the likes of unlikely, but Phil Foden or a Jeremy Doku, why like they should possibly be ahead of Savinho in that sense in terms of players being moved on, you know. But yeah, like, it's one to think about, guys. And as Shams just said, Rodrigo's 24, Foden's 25, Doku's 23, Savinho's 21. So look, all good ages, great ages. And I think if you're a fan of if you're a Man City fan, how do you feel about Savinho being moved on, being that he's the youngest out of all them? Because I think, obviously it's clear that Tottenham won him, but I think City are making a mistake, and I think Doku or Foden, because the one thing about Phil Foden as well, can we sit here now and say, and let's say Rodrygo comes in, yeah? Can we sit here now and say Foden actually starts? This is the interesting thing. Does Foden comfortably start at City if Rodrygo was to come in and Savinho goes? Because Rodrygo starts on the left hand side. Then you got Omar Mouche who can play in the 10 or the left, And not to mention, City might sometimes play a 3 in midfield. If they play a 10, you got Cherky, you've got Foden who can play as a 10. On the right hand side, obviously Oscar Bob's, just come back off injury, and again he's still young as well. But Oscar Bob, and then you've got Cherky can play out there, and Foden. So again, if Rodrygo was to come in, does Foden actually have a start in place? Let me know what you think, guys. Let me know if you think Foden starts in the in Man City's team, because I know Pep likes him, but he's gonna have to have a massive upturn in form. And again, Foden's got the quality, so I do believe he will be a lot better. But he's gonna have a tough time to I believe to start many games ahead of the attackers that I've just mentioned. And this is the problem. So yeah, it's one to think about, but we'll have to wait and see. But big up, guys. There's 33 of you in there. Only 9 likes. Let's smash the like button, guys. Let's try and hit at least 20 today as a minimum. And again, if you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you sub. I'm only 5 away, guys, from 1.4K. So again, if you're enjoying the stream, if you enjoy the content, make sure you sub to the channel. Big up. So we'll go through some of the questions. So Arsenal and Pakistan cricket team says Arsenal to sell Zinchenko ASAP. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with Zinchenko, to be honest. I think it's quite obvious that he's third choice left back, behind Lewis Skelly and Calafiori, you would say. So, but again, I heard he's on a higher wage. So I think he might be on about 170 or something like that. Zinchenko, I think he's on something near that. So again, them getting rid of Zinchenko, who's on like that amount of money, won't be easy. At the moment, I've not heard of any takers, So again, I'm not sure if that's likely, but that will be something that they've got to think about, definitely. Arsenal cricket team says Man United should give Doku a chance. Yeah, Doku is getting a chance. He is. He's been playing regularly in pre-season, and to be fair, he's been one of Man United's best players, if not the best player, in pre-season. So yeah, he is getting his chance, man. And I think Dorgu's someone as well that will go from strength to strength. The more games he gets, the more experience. The more relationships he builds up on the pitch with certain players. I think he goes from strength to strength. And how old is Dorgu? What, 20? I think. Yeah, he's definitely going to get better, man. And I think in terms of modern day fullbacks, I think he can be a modern day fullback. If you look at Alphonso Davies, for argument's sake, Alphonso Davies isn't great defensively, but his pace and his power, in being able to control that whole left-hand side, I see Dorgu in the same mold, because, both players, Alphonso Davies and Dorgu, both athletes, and I see Dorgu being someone as, being someone that could emulate what Alphonso Davies is doing. So yeah, definitely rate Dorgu. Big up to 40 Years Live says Super Cup, who's winning? Yeah, so Tottenham PSG Super Cup final. Obviously, everyone knows about the news about Donnarumma. Donnarumma's been told he can move on. Do you know what? It'd be interesting to see where he ends up. Because I think I've seen some quotes today from obviously Mina Raiola, obviously passed away, but his company. I've seen some news today saying that they see Donnarumma's future in the Premier League, and again, I think it's going to be funny to see who he ends up, because again, I'd love him to end up at Man United, but do I see it happening? I just don't know, if I'm honest, because for many reasons. Chelsea, I think you have to say Chelsea, Man City. I know we've heard today that Man City are saying that they're saying that Man City are not in the race, but when a goalkeeper of that quality becomes available, you have to be involved somewhere or another. I think personally, and I've said this the other day, I'll be very surprised if Newcastle don't at least make an inquiry, because I know they've just signed Ramsdale, and they've got Nick Pope there as well. But Donnarumma's a massive upgrade on both of them. And if someone of that ability comes in, I think Donnarumma as a goalkeeper, if he went to Newcastle, I know there's talk about obviously Isak and whether he stays or not, but I think Donnarumma, he makes Newcastle, I would say, an almost certainty for Champions League. Because if we're looking at Newcastle this season, and let's say Isak stays, we're looking at Newcastle as competing for the Champions League places. I think if Donnarumma comes there, why can't he be someone that gives them a certainty to be in the Champions League? Again, a lot of it depends on what happens to Isak, but I think Donnarumma is someone that Newcastle should definitely be looking at. And as I said, if he's available, and Newcastle just going to look at him and just say, look, we want to make you our number one, and just fuck off Nick Pope. Like, come on, and if Ramsdale wants to be number two, then fair enough. But I'll be very surprised if they're not looking at that, 40 Years Life is saying 2-1, 2-1 PSG. I'm going to say, and again, I don't think this has a bearing if, as Donnarumma's not there. Chevalier is still a good goalkeeper. And again, he's a ball-playing goalkeeper as well. I think PSG win the game, if I'm honest. I do think PSG win. But I don't think it's going to be, a spanking. I think it might be something like 3-1 or 2-1, as 40 Years Life has said. Yeah, I'll say 2-1, 3-1 is more than a good enough result, I would say, for... And if Tottenham get beat 2-1 or 3-1 by PSG, I don't think they should be too disheartened, because they're currently the best team in the world. I know Chelsea fans might say otherwise, but they're the current holders of the Champions League. So, yeah, I think it wouldn't be too bad, I think, if they were to get beat by that scoreline. But again, yeah, I definitely see PSG winning the game, 100%. Just looking at the lineups here. Big up to Jude. Jude says Savinho would do well under Thomas Frank at Spurs. I agree. I think if Thomas Frank gets a hold of Savinho, I think he could turn Kudus and Savinho into world beaters. I do believe that, because if you look at what he's done with Brian Mbeumo, obviously Visser as well. These two are two of the in their positions, two of the best in the league, you would say. Hands down, you would say that. And I think if I look at Savinho's ability and I look at Mohamed Kudus as well, I can see him turning them two into, two of the best players in Europe. I can see that, because, as I said, he's a very good manager, very good coach, Thomas Frank. And the way that he'll use both players, I think, it's one to watch, man. It's definitely one to watch what he's going to do with them. And I'll be interested to see that. DXR says, I thought Rodrygo will end up in Bayern. To be honest with you, I never saw Bayern as a possibility for Rodrygo personally. I know Bayern are one of the big teams, obviously, in world football. But for me, Rodrygo, if he was to leave Real Madrid, it was always going to be to come to the Premier League for me, because obviously the money. You've got the likes of City and Chelsea. They're the number 1, 2 teams for me that I can see Rodrygo going to. But I always said Man City, because the fact that Jack Grealish is gone now, obviously to Everton on loan, and I can't believe, obviously, there's a buy option there of 50 mil. So when you actually think about it, City have done one hell of a deal there, really, because they've got a player that they wanted to move out on loan. And again, it's one of them things where if he does very well there, which I expect him to anyway, it's there for Everton to sign him. And 50 million, if they sign him for 50 million, City are getting half their money back for what they paid for him. So, and again, this is a guy that's won a treble with them. So it's great business, really. So, but yeah, with Rodrygo, I see him end up at City. I'm surprised that Chelsea haven't come in and made their interest known in Rodrygo. I'm surprised they've, because I thought for Chelsea, they should have made Rodrygo their number one target. But obviously, if they're going to get Xavi Simons in, then there's no chance them going for Rodrygo. Not when they've got Bino Gittins and their rumoured interest of Garnacho. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But I think City ends up, definitely. Big up to Jackson Plays, says City, City, City. Yeah, big up, man. Yeah, listen, I think at this moment in time, I'm gonna say Liverpool are just slightly ahead. You know, but I think if City get Rodrygo, I'll put it to you like this: if Liverpool get Isak and City get Rodrygo, and the two squads stay how it is, I'm gonna say City. I'm gonna say City. You know, I think a lot of people might say Liverpool, but if Isak does go Liverpool and their squad that they've got at the moment it will be very strong. But if Rodrigo goes to City, with the fact that they've brought in Reinders, Cherky, and Ait Nouri. I know Rodri's out at the moment, but hopefully he gets back soon than later and retains the form they had before. I'm gonna say City will be the slight favourites for me if Rodrigo was to go there. I think Rodrigo is that big of a signing. I think he just changes everything, because the Rodrigo that we're seeing at Real Madrid isn't being utilised in the way that he should, because he's a top player, but he's having to play, not even second fiddle, playing third fiddle to Mbappe and to Vinicius Jr. So I think you'll get more out of him if he was to go to Man City, Yeah, and as Sham said, Rodrigo will be the sign of the summer if Isak joins Liverpool. I agree. I agree. For me, Carlos Baleba, Man United have to get him in. I've been saying this since the start of the summer. But if Rodrigo's Man City, that's the sign of the summer for me, 100%. 100%. Because for me, City haven't been great, to the levels that they've been playing at. But I just think he's a game changer, Rodrigo. He's a massive game changer. So, yeah, I got confidence that that he'll be a revelation if he does go there, man. 100%. So Jude says Rodrigo's the best current Brazilian player under Rafinha. Do you know what? That's not a bad shout. I mean, who are you looking at? Got Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, João Pedro, Rafinha, William Esteval, Neymar will be back in the squad. Guys, you know what? I just clocked it, yeah? I'll tell you now, Brazil's squad for this World Cup, I think in terms of attackers, that squad is going to be frightening. Because they've got so many players to pick from. Like, if we think of Neymar's going to be back in the squad for his last World Cup, you've got Vinicius Jr. who'll be in there. Rodrygo who'll be in there. They'll be there if they're fit. Endrick, will be pushing to be in there, as well, depending if he gets game time. João Pedro, the start he's had at Chelsea, will be pushing to be in there. Who else is there? Matthias Cunha will be pushing to be in there. Then you got Anthony, great season on loan at Betis. If he gets a club, he'll be pushing to be in there. William Esteval at Chelsea again. Andre Santos in midfield. Casemiro, Lucas Paqueta, Douglas Luiz, Edison, Bruno Guimaraes, Joel Linton. I'm telling you now, that squad is going to be stacked, and I feel sorry for the coach, man, who's got to pick them players, because some players are going to be left out, and there's probably one or two that I've actually forgotten. But I don't know how he's going to pick this team, but it's going to be interesting to see for sure. But would I say Rodrigo's the best current Brazilian player? I think you have to put Vinicius Jr. up there as well. If we're talking about current form, then obviously Vinny might not. But then again, it's a new season. But I think Vinicius Jr. has to be up there. Rodrygo definitely for me. João Pedro, Rafinha. Yeah, listen, they've got some serious talent, man. Serious talent in that squad. And good luck to the coach picking that team. 40 Years Life says, Romero's the new captain of Tottenham. How do you feel? Well, I don't feel nothing because I'm not a Tottenham fan, but I did see it earlier today. And to be fair, it was obvious because Romero was the vice captain anyway when Son didn't play. And I think it's a smart move from Thomas Frank, because again, Romero was linked to Atletico Madrid. Not to mention as well, Romero's a bit of a hothead. So I think them giving Romero the captaincy, is going to instill some kind of discipline into him. Because he can't be careless, knowing that he's the captain of the team, and he's going to need to be, one of the leaders as such. So I think it's a good move by Thomas Frank, and maybe you might get a new Romero now. You might get someone that's a bit more cautious in what he does, because obviously, as we know, Romero is a massive hothead, and but this obviously now he's the captain of the club. This might make him a bit more responsible. So Sham says, for me, City should have let Doku go. He doesn't have end product. 100% agree. I don't really rate Doku. The only reason why I think Pep might keep Doku is because out of all the profiles of wingers that he has, Doku's clearly the a different. He's the odd one out in a sense. So I think if the game's at a stalemate and you want someone that's got raw pace and strength, this is when I think off the bench, Doku might be effective. So I think he might keep Doku, if I'm honest. Not because he rates him highly, but because I think Doku, as I said, offers a different option off the bench. But if you're gonna get in a Rodrygo, again, Doku has to play second choice. That's what Pep might be thinking. Big up to X Kid. Nacho X says, City fan here, and if Foden wants to be considered an option, minimum 150 million bid. I mean, again, no one's going to pay that for Foden. That's the first thing. But what I would say, I don't believe City sell Foden. That's not what I'm saying. Because again, for many reasons, he's the poster boy for Man City in terms of academy product coming through. But I'm just looking at, why would you sacrifice Savinho, who's younger, for one, and, potentially could be better than Foden? And again, Foden's more of a, Foden's is a number 10 that can play out wide as well, whereas Savinho's an out-and-out winger. So for what City want to do, you've got someone in Savinho that can play both sides. Ryan Cherky's a 10, and you've got Oscar Bob, who's a winger as well. So I'm just surprised that City are willing to let Savinho go when you've got other players there that might be a bit more of an option. But again, Foden's not going to leave, but it was more of a suggestion to see what you guys would think. But as I said, no one's going to pay 150. City probably wouldn't entertain offers anyway. But the problem is, does Foden actually start in City's best team? This is the problem. Because people would say, yeah, because, again, Cherky's a new signing people might look at. Oscar Bob's still young as well. But you got Omar Marmoush, again, who'll be pushing for starts. He can play as a 10 on the left as a striker as well. If Rodrygo was to come in, as I said, there's no talk about bench. He starts on the left-hand side. So again, and then he's contending against. Then Foden's obviously contending against Oscar Bob on that side, or even Cherky can play out there, and they could go to a free midfield. So it's one of them things. But again, Pep does like him, so I think he will get game time. But it's one to watch, guys. One to watch. Big up to Marga Pepe for coming on. Guys, come on. Only 13 likes. 27 of you watching. Let's smash the like button, guys. Come on. 13 is shit. Let's get the likes up and help support the channel, guys. Big up yourselves. Jude says, I think Foden will be priced too high by City to sell, and this respectfully to Doku, he isn't the full package yet. I think Foden will be priced too high by City to sell, and respectfully to Doku, he isn't the full package yet. Well, to be fair, man, Doku's never going to be the full package. Doku is, I think Doku just simplifies a lot of wingers today. Head down, pace and power. But for me, yeah, Doku is someone, as I said, he's going to be a bit of a game changer in the sense if the game's at a stalemate, he offers a different threat with his physicality. So this is why I think Pep might keep him, but he's not a Pep player, but he might keep him for that different option. In terms of Foden, as I just mentioned, I don't think they're going to entertain. I don't think City would entertain any bids for Foden. But what I would say is, you know, he needs to have a very good season. Not just for Man City, but to enhance his prospects for England as well. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Big up to Marga. Yep. Big up for coming through. 4 Years Life says, I feel John Stones should go because they have good options still and they could get 40 million for him. I don't think they'll get 40 million for John Stones purely because of his injury record. But to be fair, John Stones, very good, very good player, very good defender. But again, injuries have killed his career. So yeah, I think I don't see John Stones won't move on. I think John Stones will be more for the experience and he'll come in and out of the team as and when, So I think that's what I can see happening. They won't move him on. I think he's someone that you know has his best years are probably behind him now. But I think in terms of his experience, his leadership there at Man City, the fact that he's been there for a while, I think that will continue. So, but 40 million, I don't think they get 40 million for him because of his injury record. Wayne says City should not release Savinho. The Man City fans are actually rebelling against the move. And you know what? I'm not actually surprised because, as I said, he's a very good he's a very good player, and it's one of them things where he's 21. If he was like 26, 27, you'd probably understand it a bit more. But he's 21, and as I said, potentially, he could be better than what they have already. This is the thing. So yeah, but again, I can see why they're protesting. But as I said, if City do let Savinho go, they have to go and get Rodrygo, and that will appease the fans. So yeah, it's one to watch, man. But yeah, I do rate him. And again, City's loss will be Tottenham's gain because I do believe he does. I think he takes Tottenham to another level. That's how good I think he is. So let's see. Gav, if United didn't exist, who would you support after Arsenal, of course? Do you know what? No one's actually asked me that. That's a good question. So if United didn't exist, which they do, who would I support? You know what? This might surprise you. Yeah, I would probably. Actually, no, I don't think it will surprise you. If United didn't exist, which is difficult to answer, I would probably be a casual fan, just trying to enjoy whatever team plays good football. And rather than support a team, I'd look at what players that I like to watch play. And then like obviously Barcelona's my other team, so I love watching Barcelona play. And again, notoriously throughout the years, they've had some special players. So, but yeah, no, I'd probably be a casual fan and then a Barcelona fan if it's obviously abroad in a different country. That's what I would say. Yeah, big up, Jay, man. No worries, no worries. Guys, I can understand, obviously, everyone going to watch the Super Cup final. Big up yourselves. So, yeah, what I'll do, I'll get through everyone's questions, and then, again, I'm going to shoot off as well to watch the game. But I am going to be back tomorrow, normal time, 11:30, and we're going to do our Premier League preview. So, yeah, make sure you guys come through and give some support to the channel as well. Gav, I've got my first game with my team coming up and I'm getting a bit of anxiety. How can I calm myself down before the game? Yeah, big up, Jude, man. What I would say is, calm yourself down. I think what you need to do really, is, it depends. When's your game first and foremost? Is it on a Saturday? I'm guessing. But what I would say is you need to just relax, man, and don't change any kind of different habits that you used to do. Just still do put your work in. If it means doing some extra training, to get yourself more prepared. Getting a good night's sleep as well. Eating well. These things will always aid you to calm the nerves down and get you prepared for the game at hand. So I'll just say just to relax, and just do your the normal things you do. So I'm guessing you do train. So just keep your training up. As I say, keep your get your rest in. Make sure you're eating properly as well. Get your make sure your sleeping's good as well. And I'm sure you'll be all right, man. So there isn't really any kind of secret to it, if you're getting anxiety, it's all about just controlling your emotions and just relaxing, and think of it like this, don't be afraid to make any mistakes, you know. I think the biggest thing that I can probably give to anyone that is trying to either become a footballer, or enjoys playing and wants to make an impression in the first game, etc., then what I would say is you have to go onto that pitch with an aura. You have to think you're the best. You might not be the best, but you have to go onto the pitch thinking you're the best. And again, if you go onto the pitch with that kind of confidence, and if you make a mistake, you're not worried about making the mistake because you are gonna still try and get on the ball. I think one of the worst things that I see about younger players, is that if they make a mistake, they go and hide. I think the best thing you can do is if you make a mistake, you still want the ball. Don't hide because that shows like a different character. So that's what I would say, is go onto that pitch and thinking you're the best. Have that confidence, and I say if you make mistakes, don't worry about making the mistakes. Just do your best to try and get on the ball and rectify what you've previously done. That's what I would say. But big up, man. So Jude said, I didn't think Doku was that old. I thought he was the same age as Savinho. Nah, no way. Nah, Doku's about 23. But again, 23 is not old. So when I hear people say 20 that old, that's crazy. Like Foden's 25. That's not old. I think we're only looking at Foden. Like if people might say Foden's old because Foden come on the scene, at a young age. I think Foden come on the scene, I believe, when he was, what, 16 or 17? So 25, 25, 23, that's not old, man. That's not old. Come on. So Sham says Foden wouldn't start if Rodrygo joins. Foden needs to pick up his game again to make it happen. I agree. I agree. And as I said, Rodrygo plays on the left anyway. And Foden obviously plays in the 10 or from the right. So for me, I think Foden would need to be... obviously Foden will be competing with Cherky, for the number 10 position. And again, on the right-hand side, you've got Oscar Bob as well. So, yeah, he's got it all to do, man, because last season wasn't good enough. But I think we'd expect him to have a better season, for sure. So Jude says he reckons Foden will be played more as a cam. Yeah, I think that as well. I think that as well. I think Cherky might... I think Cherky might play more towards the right. I hope not. I hope Cherky plays in the 10. But I think if Savinho does go, then you're going to have Cherky and Bob as the players on the right. Then you've got Cherky and Foden who can play in the 10. Foden again can play on the right. Marmoush can play in the 10. Then if Rodrygo comes in, you've got Rodrygo, Doku on the left. Marmoush can play on the left as well. Rodrygo can play in the 10. So they've got a lot of adaptable players there. And I think that's what Pep is probably looking at, Big up to Mustafa says, I hope Rodrygo does not go to City. I mean, being a Man United fan, I can't disagree with that. But listen, I like good players, man. I just want to see good players in the league. And if it's a case where he goes to City, then so be it. It is what it is. I think United at the moment, they're doing their own little business and it has to be commended. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at first and foremost. If he goes to City, he goes to City. It is what it is. Yeah, big up, Jude, man. Good luck for your first game, man. You'll be cool, as Jay has said. As I said, man, just have some belief, and just relax yourself, man. You'll be fine. Mount has been one of the best in pre-season. Will be interested to see if he carries that form over. Lumi again with a Mount prop. Listen, Lumi, I'm starting to think, Lumi, that you want Arsenal to go and sign Mason Mount. And if that's the case, I'm not sure how you can do it, man. But get in touch with Arteta to get a bid over the line because I'm just not here for this Mount prop. I'm not here for it. Um, Mount's had a decent pre-season, but he's not going to start the first game of the season, And moving forwards, I just don't know where Mason Mount figures into this. So, as I said, the Mount prop is mad, but not for me. Not for me. Big up to Agnes Fortinish. Uh, Big up to Character Academy. Big up for coming through. So Lumi says, if you bring in Baleba, does the midfield need moving on? Uh, nah, I wouldn't say a midfield needs moving on. If Baleba comes in, Baleba starts. But the thing is, you got Casemiro. Casemiro's got 1 year left on his contract, and Casemiro is going to go at the end of the season. I think it's pretty obvious he goes at the end of the season. So then that means you've got Ugarte and you've got Bruno who plays in there, Kobe Minu. So if you look at that quartet of midfielders, you got in this system, you've got, as I said before, Kobe's not a 6 or an 8 in this system. Bruno's being shoehorned into the team in that position. Ugarte, for me, on the ball isn't good enough. So that means you've got Casemiro, Baleba, really, that are central midfielders. And again, the way this manager wants to play, he's not getting the best out of Casemiro. So, yeah, I wouldn't say a midfielder has to move on. I definitely wouldn't say that. But that'll be something that will be looked at maybe next summer, I would say. But I can't see any midfielder moving on now. I think it's going to be set in stone that this is going to be United's midfield with the addition of Baleba. Hopefully that happens. So yeah. So Ryan1234 says, is Donnarumma actually signing for Man City? I think there's been reports saying that City are not looking at him. But what I would say is obviously Ederson's being courted by Galatasaray. Ederson's being courted by Galatasaray. So you would have to believe that if Ederson does go, which I'm not sure if it happens in this window, then they would have to go and get someone, and Donnarumma will be high on their list. But again, it's a weird one because Donnarumma's not a ball-playing goalkeeper, and why would Pep if Pep didn't want Joe Hart all those years ago, why is he going to want Donnarumma? Because Donnarumma's not a ball-playing goalkeeper either. But then again, maybe it might be a signing, where they're looking at where they're looking beyond Pep. It could be that to try and get someone in goal along with the likes of James Trafford, and obviously the next manager can use both goalkeepers or have his preference. It could be that. But for me, I think he goes to somewhere in the Premier League, but I'm not sure who it's going to be. Man United. I don't see him going Man United. I just don't see it because the reason being is that Onana's not going anywhere. People are trying to force him out. Onana's not going anywhere. And if you get Donnarumma in, you're not going to have Onana on the bench. So I just don't see it happening. Again, if United could get Donnarumma, you're going to hear no complaints from me. But I don't see it happening. So I'm going to say this. It's going to be between City, Chelsea, Newcastle for Donnarumma. I can't see any other team. As much as I'd love it to be Man United, I just can't see it. I was going to say Tottenham, but obviously, Vicario's his compatriot as well. But Tottenham are in Champions League. Who knows? Who knows? But I think it's unlikely personally. But it's one to watch, man. Definitely one to watch. Gav, what do you think about Jordan Henderson at Brentford? I think he brings a lot of experience to a side that is under a new young manager, but I don't think So, yeah, but I don't think it'll be good signing. His legs are gone. But yeah, I think you've answered the question really. So it's the experience that he's going to bring. I think Jordan Henderson literally is just there because of his know-how. His leadership, and I think he'll bring that because you got to think they've lost their captain in Christian Norgard. So bringing in someone like a Henderson is actually quite a smart signing. He's not going to play every game, but he'll bring that leadership to the club. And again, if you're losing your manager, you're losing your captain. It's quite a clever signing, and you've got a young manager. Again, it's quite a clever signing, man. So yeah. Uh, Big up to Crawley Eagles says, who's better, Jordan Henderson or Granit Xhaka? For me, Granit Xhaka is a better player. He is. I think Granit Xhaka is underrated personally. I do think he's underrated. But I do think he's better. Big up to Pigrono. Yeah, big up for coming through. Guys, come on. Only 13 likes. Smash the like button. There's 17 of you and 23, sorry, of you in there watching at the moment. Smash the like button, guys. Help the channel to grow. And again, if you're new in here, make sure you sub to the channel. Big up to the Red Litters as well. So Red Litters says, do you think Hugo Ekitike will be good? Yeah, listen, he's a very good player, man. Again, players like Ekitike, all you have to look at is the fundamentals of the player. He's got a very good touch. He's got very good technique. He can hold the ball up. He can link the play. He's got good movement as well. Very good movement. So when you've got the fundamentals like that, you can't help but not be a top player. So I have no doubt that Ekitike will be a very good signing for Liverpool. The issue that he might have is if Isak comes in, Isak's going to be the main striker. So where does Ekitike fit in? Because he can play from the left. But if we're looking at Liverpool's best lineup, their front lineup, because Mo Salah's going to play regardless of what form he's going to be in. So if you've got Mo Salah on the right-hand side, you've got Isak through the middle. You've now got Ekitike battling the likes of Cody Gakpo on the left-hand side. Or Florian Wirtz could play there at times. So, yeah, I think he's a very good player, Ekitike, and I do think he's going to be a success at Liverpool. But I think a lot of it might depend on where his future actually lies, because, if Isak comes through, he might have to find himself playing from the left, But big up, man. Good question. FCSB, yeah, I've heard of FCSB. I think they were in the Europa League, if I remember. Were they Champions League or Europa League? I've heard of them, definitely. Big up to Real Gems says, I think Rodrygo is allowed the luxury of no pressure and less attention because the other two big dogs get the attention. Let's see when he has to deal with both. So I think Rodrygo is allowed the luxury of no pressure. I disagree with that, Real Gems, because any player at Real Madrid is under pressure. Those fans hold their players accountable. So there ain't no player at Real Madrid that can just go there, and have a jolly up in a sense. So it's not that Rodrygo is allowed the luxury of no pressure and less attention. Unfortunately, he's at a club where you've got, two of the biggest names in world football, in Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe. And it's not because of the ability that they're better than Rodrygo. It's because of the PR. They've got a massive commercial appeal. And this is the problem is, as long as those two are at Real Madrid, unfortunately, Rodrygo is going to be the odd one out in that sense. Not because he's not better than them, but it's because of the PR. And as I said, a lot of people think that Rodrygo is actually a right winger when he's not. He's actually a left winger. And that just tells you everything. Why, you know what I mean? That just tells you everything why he needs to leave there. Because any club he goes to outside of Real Madrid, he starts on the left, and he's a superstar, in my opinion. So, yeah, he has to leave them for me. But we'll have to wait and see, man. But I definitely think City they're gonna try and get that deal over the line for me, 100%. Big up to not Brett May. Yeah, big up not Brett May for coming through. So Lumi Rain says, who's this player Fulham want for 40 million? Yeah, so that's Kevin. That's a guy called Kevin from Shakhtar Donetsk, Lumi. So Brazilian called Kevin. Again, another Brazilian player. But yeah, from what I've seen of him, he looks very good. Very, very good. And yeah, I think they're trying to, I believe they're trying to break their transfer fee for him. Because Shakhtar Donetsk want 50 million for him. And obviously, there's been reports today that Atalanta are trying to sign Rodrygo Muniz because obviously they lost. What's that striker that went to Saudi? Al Qadsi, I forgot his name. Oh, Retegi. So Retegi went to Saudi. So Atalanta want Rodrygo Muniz to replace him. And the funny thing is, I think they're making a mistake in letting Muniz go. I think Muniz is actually a very good striker, you know, and I think he's someone that will grow. Oh, kudos, man. What a player. So yeah, that Fulham want Kevin. He's a good player, man. I've seen him for Shakhtar. And again, Shakhtar always have these Brazilians. You know, they had Willian, you know, they had Luis Adriano. Had a guy called Bernard as well. Yeah, they've had quite a few players, man. Quite a few Brazilians, man. Top players. So yeah, he's a good player. So Red Light, he says, no, I swear Isak left Newcastle. Not yet. He hasn't left Newcastle yet. But again, I'm still going to say he doesn't leave Newcastle because the power's with Newcastle. And I think if Newcastle was to let him leave after what's been reported and what he's been doing, that will make Newcastle look weak. So, yeah, it's going to rumble on to the end of the summer, man. And we have to wait and see what happens. But it's going to be interesting. Lumi says, Jude, if you bring in Donnarumma and Baleba, are you challenging? Let me see if Jude's answer that because... Okay, depends what you mean by challenging. So big up to Sikela Mafoya. I want to say South African name, I think. Pep will finish Man City. He's already selling Savinho. Why? You know what? Sikelela, sorry. Yeah, to me, it's an odd one. It's an odd one why he's letting Savinho go. You know, as I said, Doku, even Foden, as I said, I think those players should be ahead of Savinho because Savinho's 21 and you can see the ability he has and he will grow as well. So yeah, it's shocking. But again, if they get Rodrygo, then it's going to appease the fans, as I said. So it won't be that much of a loss in their eyes if Rodrygo does come in. So yeah, it's one of them ones. But I'm surprised he's willing to let Savinho go. And again, from what's been quoted, 50 million. Like that is nothing. So yeah, it's one to watch, man. Definitely. So Lumi says, I wonder what Amorim's minimum requirements are from the board. They've backed him hard. Yeah, listen, minimum requirements. I think we should take small steps first and foremost because I know I keep saying this, but I'm not looking past these first 5 games because I tell you this now, if Ruben Amorim doesn't get positive results in the first 5 games of the season, he'll be under pressure for the next 5 if he does survive that. So let's not look past the first 5 games because he has to get past them. And then if he does positive in them first 5 games, you know, move on to the next 5, and then we can start looking at what's happening. But do I believe he's going to do that? I don't, because I just don't rate him as a coach, if I'm honest. So for me, they have backed him. They have, you know, they've given him, and after the season United just had, he's got Mbuemo Cunha, you know, 2 of the best wide goal scoring forwards in the league. You got an up and coming striker in Benjamin Sesko. You're trying to get one of the best young midfielders in the world, for me, in Carlos Baleba. I don't want to hear no excuses. I don't want to hear, he hasn't got more players or this other nonsense that a lot of people are trying to talk about. At the end of the day, he's got 5 games. He's got 5 games start with. Then we're gonna see what happens. And guys, this is the thing with Ruben Amorim. If Amorim doesn't beat Arsenal, let's say he gets a draw against Arsenal. That's I'll be satisfied with that. I think they should beat Arsenal, but a draw, if we're being realistic, fair enough. If he draws with Arsenal, then against Fulham and Burnley, he has to get a minimum of 4 points, which is a win and a draw. So against Fulham, if you draw, you'll be under pressure, but you have to beat Burnley. So this is what I'm trying to say to you. If he beats Arsenal against Fulham, a draw is not too bad, but you have to beat Burnley. If he loses to Arsenal, then for me, he has to beat Burnley and Fulham. So this is what I'm trying to say to you. He's got a bit of a conundrum with these fixtures. This Arsenal game is crucial for me. It's not crucial in the sense of how it's going to pan the season out, but it's crucial for him in how I see him in his next few games. Because, as I said, if he gets beat by Arsenal, then he has to beat Fulham and Burnley, and he's got City and Chelsea. Yeah? But if he draws against Arsenal, then if he draws against Fulham and beats Burnley, again, 5 points from 3 games, isn't too bad going into City and Chelsea. But again, if he was to lose against Arsenal, he has to beat Fulham and Burnley. It's a must. So yeah, he's got it all to do, man. Big up to Leakin Edits. Big up for coming through. Guys, come on, 17 likes. There's 22 of you in there. Let's at least get 20 likes. Smash the like button. Help channel to grow. And as always, guys, make sure you sub to the channel. I'm going to go through a few more of your comments, and then we're going to wrap up. But I will definitely be back tomorrow morning at normal time at 11:30 to do the Premier League preview. But big up yourself. Gav, Foden had just one underwhelming season. People talk about him as if he wasn't the league's best player the previous year. Yeah, listen, I'm a fan of Foden. I've never said Foden's not a good player. But what I am saying is that Foden's in a bit of a sticky one because he was once seen as, the golden boy for club and country, for Man City and for England. I think it's safe to say now, Cole Palmer has surpassed him. And I'd argue with I'd argue with anyone to tell me that he's not that Cole Palmer's a better player than him, because he is. So Cole Palmer surpassed him for England and for club wise as well. So if he doesn't have a good season, Foden, I don't think he goes to the World Cup, because if you look at the attackers in that England squad, you've got Palmer, you've got Eze, you've got Saka, you've got Bellingham, you've got what's his name? Gibbs White will be in there or in contention. Anthony Gordon, Marcus Rashford, Jared Bowen. I'm not going to mention Madueke. Forget him. I ain't putting Madueke in there. No way. That's about 8 players I've mentioned. And there's probably a few more that if they have a surprising season, they could be in contention. So he has to have a good season for City. Otherwise, he'll find his place in the World Cup under threat. And as I said, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he just starts every game for Man City, because there's competition for places. Not to mention, Pep might sometimes go over 3 in midfield, which means the 2 wide players, he might be looking for pace, which, again, Foden isn't that player. So it's one to think about. But listen, I'm a fan of Foden. I think Foden's a very good football player. But I have to keep it 100. He hasn't been good. Oh, look, Barcola's through now. Let's see what happens there. Well, good defending. Is that Papa Matasol? Yeah. Let's see. Lumi Rain says, I would swap Foden for Odegaard. Yeah, but look, that's not really surprising. That's not surprising. I think in terms of both players, there's not really too much difference, really. Um, but yeah, listen, I think Foden's a good player. I do, but he's got it all to do, man, this season, definitely. Because I'll go as far and say this, and again, you can agree with me or not. If Foden has an underwhelming season again for Man City, don't be surprised if there's talk about them not being too fussed if they move him on. Don't be surprised. I know he's homegrown in that, but I'm pretty sure they'll have some other homegrown players coming through. Look what they're doing. McAtee's going to Nottingham Forest, but I think they're including a buyback. So, as I said, yeah, I think it's not a foregone conclusion that that Foden's going to be there for the entirety of his career. Because again, if you're a top club like Man City and the standards that team have set, you know what I mean. They've got to be performing, and that's it. And a team like City are always going to have players coming through, or players that they're going to go and buy, and potentially Ryan Cherky's potentially better than Foden. I think Oscar Bob's a top player, potentially as well. Marmoush is a very, very, very good signing who's ready now. If you get Rodrygo in, Rodrygo's better than Foden. So again, Foden's not guaranteed his place in this squad, in this team by any means, So he's gonna have to go have a good season, but I do think he does, Big up to Liverpool says I have a question. Yeah, go on, big up, man. Big up to Moz K says I am watching from Mozambique. I love you, my boy. My English is bad. KK. Yeah, big up, man. If you're still in the chat, Moz K. Big up, man. Guys, yeah, I'm just getting through some of your chats, man. So if you're still watching the stream, big up yourself, and I will try and get through to everyone's comments. Yeah, Judah, I heard that. I think I think Barcelona are playing Villarreal in Miami, apparently, from what I heard. That's got Lionel Messi written all over it. Pigrona, at Gav, do you know a Romanian football team? Well, FCSB. There you go. Obviously, that's Steaua Bucharest. Yeah, what's that team called again? Is it Cluj? I think Cluj were in the Champions League. I think they're a Romanian team. FC Cluj. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's another team as well. Oh, yeah, Tottenham are playing some good football. Good play, Spence. Yeah, FC Cluj. I think they're Romanian. Matthias Fank Sally says Messi or Ronaldo. Again, I think everyone answers this question. It's Messi all day long. Lumi says Messi or Maradona. Well, the fact that you spelled Maradona with a double N, I'm not sure if you mean Madonna or Maradona. So I'm not going to answer that, Lumi, because I'm not sure if that's Madonna or Maradona. But big up. Yeah, listen, Georgie Hadji, Christian Chivu, Adrian Mutu. Yeah, listen, Romanian legends. Georgie Hadji was a top player, man. Top player, Georgie Hadji. His son plays now. I think it's Yanis Hadji. He used to be at Rangers. I think he's still playing. But Christian Chivu, obviously Inter Milan manager. Very good defender. I think Radu Dragusin, I think, at Tottenham, I think he's Romanian as well. He's not a bad defender, to be fair. So Nathan says, is Neymar playing? Playing where? Do you mean for PSG? Or because if it's PSG, man, he left there a long time ago. Sham says, I think Lumi fancies Mount. Yeah, listen, that was gonna be my next one, because the amount of Mount prop that Lumi's giving is criminal. Let's just say that. Either she fancies him or she wants She wants Arsenal to go and sign him. Lumi, let us know, man. Like, we're here for you. Big up. Yeah, listen. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, Portsmouth. I knew it. I knew it. But big up, though, anyway. Big up to Daniela as well for coming on. Right, guys, I'm just gonna skim through, sorry, some of your comments. So if I don't read out everyone's comments, big up yourselves. Yeah, big up, Jay. Yeah, big up to Taylor. So Taylor says there is a whole lot of class players not getting minutes at Real. Goulet, Endrick, and Garcia. Yeah, listen. Obviously, Gonzalo Garcia just signed a new contract at Real Madrid. So, you know, he's obviously going to be in around the squad. How he gets game time, I don't know. You know, because Vinicius Junior and Mbappe are obviously going to be playing. Arda Güler is a top player for me, you know, and he's someone for me that just needs to go and play somewhere, because if he's not getting regular game time at Real Madrid, he needs a loan to go and showcase his ability, man, because he's a top player. And again, Endrick's got a big season because he's got the World Cup coming up. You know, it'll be his first World Cup. But again, just like Garcia, how are these guys going to get game time? So it's going to be interesting, man. Definitely be interesting, but we'll see when the window shuts what happens. So Taylor says, have you already made an EPL prediction? In terms of what? What prediction? Man United got Grimsby in the second round of Carabao Cup. Well, let's see if Amorim wins that if he's there. I ain't pointing it past him, put it that way. Yeah, guys, sorry, I'm just behind on some of the messages. Big up yourself. Yeah, guys, if you're still in the chat, so normally I do 11:30 in the morning. So if you guys want to jump on, I'm definitely live tomorrow at 11:30. We're going to do our Premier League preview predictions. And obviously in the evening, normally at 7:30. So yeah, just make sure you guys got your notifications on to see when I go live. So I'll try to stick to them times most days. But if anything comes up, then obviously I'll have to reschedule and do other times. So, but yeah, normally 11:30 or 7:30 in the evening. Big up to El Fago Soriano says, do you know Saint Maximin? Well, I don't know him personally, but I know what player. I know who the player is. Oh, Cruel Eagle with an interesting. So Cole Palmer is great, but not world class. Crawley, what I would say to you though, tell me who you think is actually world class, and then we can compare. So give me a list of some players who you think's world class, and then I can tell you if they should be ahead of Cole Palmer. I think that's the best way to do it. Jude says, I can guarantee that if we sack Amorim, Jim Radcliffe will put himself as the manager to save money. Nah, listen, I think there's a lot of Kudus. Top player, man. Top player, Kudus. Guys, I wanted Kudus ahead of Mbuemo. I said United didn't go get Kudus, and I'll tell you now, he's a top player, man. He's giving Nuno Mendes problems. And Nuno Mendes right now is the best left back in the world. But he's giving him problems. Kudus is a top player, man. I would love United to get him. So yeah, I think we have to give credit to Jim Ratcliffe, to be honest with you, man, because he's coming. You know, there were a lot of fans that weren't happy with the kind of things he was doing, but in this transfer window, listen, he's putting up trees, man. He's doing his job, man. So we have to respect it. And if he gets Carlos Baleba over the line, listen, you'll see someone that's going to be very happy. Oh, goal 1-0. Mickey van der Ven. Mickey van der Ven. I'm telling you, yeah. You see Tottenham, yeah. Tottenham are gonna have a good season under this manager. You know, they've got some very good players, man, and they've added some very good players. Kudus, João Paulinho, you know. They're looking to add Savinho and Eze. As I said, if they add Savinho and Eze to this team already, I'm telling you this now, I'm expecting top 4 for Tottenham. I'll say top 4 Tottenham if they add Savinho and Eze. That's how much I think those two players there will change things for them. You know, new manager, who's a top manager, you know, Kudus, as I said, João Paulinho of his leadership. And if you get Eze and Savinho, listen, they're going to be all right, man. They're going to be all right, I'm telling you. So Crawley Eagle says Foden clears Palmer. He's the reason Palmer was sold. Incorrect. Big up to Crawley Eagle each and every time. Listen, look. You know what it is? When it comes to debates, you know, I love a debate about football. You know, and again, as I always say, you guys are not here to agree with me. But if you have a difference of opinion, then that's what it's all about, and we can debate it. So again, Crawley Eagle's a regular in the chat. So, but again, I don't agree with this, Crawley Eagle. So you're saying Foden clears Palmer. He's the reason Palmer was sold. That's not true. And I'll tell you why that's not true. The reason Cole Palmer went is because Cole Palmer knew he was too good to be on the bench. And the thing is, he spoke to Pep Guardiola and basically said to Pep Guardiola that he wants to play and he needs to play now. So Pep couldn't really guarantee him regular minutes, which is why he took his chance to go to Chelsea. You know, and at the time, people were saying 45 million. Again, I was someone that was saying the same thing. I was saying Palmer for 45 million. He's hardly played, you know, regular game time for Chelsea, for Man City. But City thought, you know, if they can get some money for him, let him move on. It is what it is. Cole Palmer right now is one of the best players in the league. And he's better than Foden. He's ahead of Foden now in the England team. And in terms of the current standing in the game, he's ahead of Foden. I'd argue that with anyone. You know what I mean? So to say that he left Man City because of Foden, that's actually not true. And I know that's not true. I know that's not true. So because of what I've heard and people that I've spoken to as well that are City fans, that isn't true. You know, he left because he wanted to play, and Pep's got so many quality players that he has to fit in. He couldn't guarantee Cole Palmer as much football as he wanted, this is the reason why he left. So big up, man. Big up to Harry as well. So Crawley says, who do you want to win, Gav? To be fair, I ain't too fussed. Just want to see good football. Tottenham winning right now, and I like Tottenham, man. Listen, they got a top manager, and they've got some very good players, man. So whoever wins, innit? Whoever plays the better team, whoever's playing better deserves to win. You know, so that's what it's about. But Kudus is a top player, man. He is top player. Big up to Dana Curso. Guys, come on, 19 likes, 21 of you watching. Let's at least hit 20, guys. Just one smash of the button if you're enjoying the content. And again, make sure you sub to the channel if you haven't done so already. And guys, as I said, I'm only 5 away from 1.4K. So again, if you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you sub, guys, and keep your support coming through. Much appreciated. So Crawley Eagle says Caicedo is the only world-class player at Chelsea. It depends what you mean by world-class, because people look at world-class in different meanings. Some people might look at it as what player gets into a world 11. Some people might look at um, the level of performance week in, week out. So it's difficult to say. But to answer that, do I think Caicedo's world class? I do. I mean, Mark Cucurella, people might not say it, but Mark Cucurella is one of the best left backs in the world. He is. He is. He's underrated, Mark Cucurella. He's one of the best left backs in the world. But again, it depends what people are defining as world class. But I'll have to say Caicedo and Palmer for me are world class out of what Tottenham have, Chelsea have. I would say Caicedo and Palmer. I think Romeo Lavia, to be honest with you, has world class potential, but he can't stay fit, so that's a problem. But yeah, no, I'll go as far and say yeah, Palmer and Caicedo right now. Yeah, I think that's fair. Big up to Slate Biss, says Messi or Ronaldo. I'm not even going to answer that. I answered that so many times. Yeah, big up to Drew. Exactly what I just said. Caicedo and Palmer. And then, yeah, João Pedro, I mean, I'm not going to say he's world-class yet because of how he performs for Chelsea. But, he could become world-class. And again, João Pedro was rated when he went to Watford. So when he was at Watford, he had number 10 on his back. They were rating him highly then. They were saying he's going to be a special player. So there's no surprise in what he's doing now. Having done that at Brighton and obviously now at Chelsea. So Palmer has been poor in 2025 and only final heroics have made people forget about his dry form. Yeah, listen, he wasn't great, and I think he'll be the first one to say that. But consistently, his level performance, has been of a high level, And again, Cole Palmer's a maverick. He's someone that he can win a game on his own. Like he's that kind of player. So to say that Foden's better than him, Foden's not a maverick. Foden's a very good system player. But again, Cole Palmer's a maverick. Cole Palmer can go into any team and just be the star because he's just got that level of ability. Foden for me suits Man City because of the way City play football. But as you can see for England, he doesn't have the same impact. And again, for if he was to go elsewhere, I don't think he'd have the same impact at other clubs. So yeah. Big up to Ahmed Danesha, says, get on, boys. Giovanni Leone. So, Liverpool signed him, yeah? 18-year-old defender. They reckon he could be someone in the future that replaces Virgil van Dijk. So I think he hasn't got too much experience at the moment, but obviously Liverpool have seen something in him to want to sign him. So, yeah. So Jude says, yeah, good comment. Jude says, world-class changes for many people and places around the world, because I'm sure people from Ghana might see Kudus as world-class for them. But for us, we might see him not as a world-class, just good. Yeah, true. Again, a lot of these things are subjective. Just like when you ask me, who's better, Messi or Ronaldo, these things can be subjective. I have my preference, which is Messi, but again, a lot of these things are subjective. So you're never really going to come to an answer where a lot of people are going to agree on, because people might think Ronaldo's better because of goals, which is madness. But these are the kind of things. So Crawley Eagle says, who has the most world-class players in the league? That's a great question. You're probably looking at La Liga, if I'm honest. Because, I think the best way to do it, if you look at the Premier League, who's world-class, I think straight away just go to the top to the top teams. So in the Premier League, you've got Liverpool, who's world-class? Virgil van Dijk, Alisson. Like I'm saying, guaranteed world class. I think Gravenberch, can become world class, but he's got to do it for another season. But Van Dijk, Alisson, I mean, you've got to say Mo Salah in terms of. I mean, I don't think Mo Salah is a world class player, but he's got world-class numbers. So Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah, Florian Wirtz. So yeah, Van Dijk, Salah, Alisson, Van Dijk, Wirtz, and Salah for me are the 4 world-class players that they've got. And then you got the likes of Gravenberch, McAllister. They're probably on the verge of world-class, I would say. Yeah, they're on the verge, and other players still need to prove it over a longer time. So that's 4 players, I would say. Then you go to City. Rodri's world class. I know he's been injured. I would say Reinders. Reinders for me is world class. He is, but maybe he's in the camp with Gravenberch, where he's probably got to prove it over a season in the Premier League. The same with Cherky as well. Erling Haaland for his numbers, just like Mo Salah. So you say Rodri and Haaland, I would say. Yeah, Rodri and Haaland from City. So you got 7 players there. Chelsea, Caicedo and Palmer for me. That's 9. Man United don't have any world-class players for me. They've got players on the periphery, I would say. But again, it's going to take a few seasons for them to do that. Arsenal have... Again, Arsenal have no world-class players. They probably got a few on the periphery. So I'm counting, and again, Newcastle, the same thing. Isak, I think Isak might be on the periphery, probably. Or maybe you could say Isak, but I'm gonna say there's 9 players in the Premier League that have world-class players. Yeah. Then if we go to, because Germany don't have enough, you're looking at Harry Kane, possibly Musiala, but they don't have enough. So if we go to Spain, Barcelona, Lamine Yamal, Robert Lewandowski, Rafinha, Pedri, Frankie de Jong. Ter Stegen, I think he's been injured. Ronald Arroyo, for me, if he stays fit, is world class. But I'll say he's on the periphery. The other ones have got potential. Jules Koundé, periphery probably. Trying to think. Yeah. Then Real Madrid, Vinicius Jr., Rodrygo, Camavinga, Valverde, Tony Rudiger, Trent. Don't know about Trent. Maybe periphery, probably. Chouameni, I think, on the periphery. Goulet hasn't played enough. Bellingham's not world class for me, so I hope no one asks that. He's not world class. Atletico Madrid, Griezmann, world class. Julian Alvarez. So yeah, I think La Liga has possibly the more world class players. But again, that's a great question. I think you're looking at La Liga and you're looking at Premier League. I mean, again, PSG have about 5 or 6 no, I say 5 or 6, probably about 4. I think PSG have Dembele. Oh, sorry, Mbappe as well, you would say. So that 11. PSG have Vitinha, Ousmane Dembele. They had Donnarumma, but he's now going. Marquinhos, periphery. Pacho, again, same thing. Nuno Mendes. Hakimi. So yeah, PSG have about 5 in their team, I would say. But yeah, that's a great question, man. It's not easy to answer. Big up to Eter from Italy as well. Big up for coming through. Yeah, Kudus is Ghanaian. Elena says Barca and Madrid. Barca. Big up to Stephen Chapman as well. So Crawley Eagle says Rice, Saka, and Saliba are world class. As much as it hurts to say, no way. Declan Rice ain't world class. Bukayo Saka's not world class. Out of the three of them, I'd probably say Saliba's probably the closest to world class. But there's no way Declan Rice is world class. And again, Declan Rice is someone, that is massively overhyped because at Arsenal, Declan Rice wasn't even Arsenal's best midfielder. Thomas Partey was. But to say Declan Rice is world class is nowhere near world class. He doesn't do anything world class, really. I mean, let's get out of the way. The 2 free kicks against Real Madrid, they were world class free kicks. They were. But his overall game isn't world class. So people that put him in the world class bracket, I don't see how you put him in there. Bukayo Saka, not world class to me. He's like Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka are 2 very good players, but that's all they are. Like the world level is different. You know what I mean? And again, this world class tag is just thrown out too easily. Again, Gabriel and Saliba for me are probably more rated world class than Rice and Saka. That's just the truth, And I don't think Gabriel and Saliba are world class. I think they're players on the periphery. I think Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka are 2 players probably on the periphery as well. But there's no way they're world class. No way. How much do you support United and Barcelona? Does a result affect your mood over the weekend? Do you know what? Not now. I'll tell you why. Because with Man United, we've been shit for so long. I've become like immune to them just because I used to watch Man United every week. Again, I'm probably showing my age, but I'm from the era when United had Peter Schmeichel in goal. When they had the likes of Bruce Pallister, even Gary Pallister, man, that's mad. Yap Stam, Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, Evra, Giggs, Beckham, Scholes, Keane, Butt, Cole, York, Van Nistelrooy, Ronaldo, Rooney, Saha, Tevez, Anderson, Nani. Like, I've watched Man United teams then, Berbatov. And I was so used to Man United just winning week in, week out. Now, the club has dropped so much. It's one of them things where the managers they've hired, some of the players they've got in, they're not going to be winning many games because the quality is just not high. So I've become resigned to the fact that, it's one of them things where, of course, you want United to win every game, but if they get beat, it's like, well, what do you expect? The team's not good enough. The manager's not good enough. That's what it's come to now. I think this summer has shown me that they're looking to go in a serious direction. But the problem is the manager that's in charge because, again, the manager wasn't my first choice, but when he came in, it was more of a relief because Ten Hag was going. I'll have to be honest and say, I think he's worse than Ten Hag. I never thought I'd be saying that about Ruben Amorim. He's actually worse than Ten Hag, and performances have proved that. So, yeah, it's an issue, man. It's a massive issue. But, yeah, listen, if Man United lose or if Barca lose, it doesn't ruin my weekend because at the end of the day, it's like I'm getting on my life, you know what I mean? And these guys don't know me, so it's not about that. But I think the fact that Man United are signing players that they have done, is positive, put it that way, Yeah, big up Jews. So Elise, Xerxes. Yeah, listen, Elise and Xerxes for me have world-class ability. But to say they're world-class now, they're not. But they got world-class ability. And again, all it's going to take really is just a few more consistent seasons, and obviously leading their team to win the big trophies. Then you can start saying they're world-class. But this world-class tag is just thrown about too easily. Listen, Jared Bowen is a very good player, Jared Bowen's not world-class by any means, but he's a very, very good player. And again, he's someone that if you're saying Bukayo Saka's world class, like Bukayo Saka isn't comfortably better than Jared Bowen. He's not, because Bukayo Saka couldn't perform at a level to what Jared Bowen's doing for West Ham. He couldn't. So, and again, Jared Bowen's a very, very good player. You know, even at Hull City where he was at, first off, he was showing potential there. So yeah, Jared Bowen's a good player, man. And as I said, he's not world class. So if he's not world class, why is Bukayo Saka? Don't make sense. So Sham says, I agree with Gav. If these Arsenal players were world class, they would have won the league by now. Agree. Yeah, these guys are not world class. They're just good, very good players. That's it. As I said, if I look at Arsenal's team, the one world class player that they probably have, or close to it, you're probably looking at Saliba or Gabriel. You know what I mean? Zubamendi's coming. But again, it's more of a case, people would probably want to see him in the Premier League and see what he does. But Saliba, Gabriel, for me, are probably the only two players that I would say, you know, might be on the periphery of world class. Declan Rice, Saka, Odegaard, no. These guys are not. They're not. So, and again, if you look at all the players that I've named that are world class, these guys have been involved in winning their teams the big trophies. So this is what it comes down to. You know, this is what it comes down to. So, but guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. You know, 20 likes, decent. You know, obviously we want to try and get the likes up a lot more. But 20 likes, I think 20 likes, guys, as a minimum is what we're going to try and hit from now on. So, obviously, mods, make sure you're pushing that, but big up yourselves each and every time for coming through. So, Crawley Eagle says, who will win a league first, United or Newcastle? United. United will win the league first. I'm pretty confident of that. And the reason I say that is because I think Newcastle, you know, they've got the money, but again, if you lose Isak and you don't reinvest that in some serious players, then it's always going to be catch up. I think United are going in a direction now where we're going to keep signing top players and long may it continue, you know. But I would say United. I've got to back my team, you know. But yeah, guys, listen, big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. Big up to all the mods. Big up to all the newcomers as well. So guys, if you haven't smashed the like button yet, make sure you do. Obviously helps the channel to grow. And again, if you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you do. As I said, I think I'm 5 away from 1.4K. So yeah, channel's growing rapidly, to be fair. And that's due to you guys' support as well. I'm going to be back, guys, tomorrow morning at 11:30. Obviously, we're going to do our Premier League preview. So we're going to go through all the fixtures, all the likely winners. And we're gonna try and see who are going to be the standout players. Well, we'll look at who are going to be the standout players and who will be the standout teams. So yeah, as I said, make sure you guys have your notifications on. And big up to Indian supporter from Gateshead. Yeah, big up, man. But yeah, guys, I'm back tomorrow morning at 11:30. So as I said, make sure your notifications are on and make sure you come through and support the channel. And obviously, as always, make sure you guys are in the chat interacting. As I said, yes, channel's growing rapidly and long may it continue. So big up yourselves for coming through and supporting. But yeah, guys, I'll catch you tomorrow at 11:30. Take it easy.